Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're getting into something really fundamental. We've got these sources challenging how we think about influence, whether that's in business, community work, you name it. Our mission, really, is to unpack this idea of presence. Is it truly the bedrock for any lasting change? We're kind of looking for the playbook on moving past just activity towards real relational impact.
And right off the bat, there's this huge paradox we found. It's striking. We are swimming in sophisticated strategies, right? We've got programs, metrics, results. You can see tons of outreach.
Yeah, lots of busyness.
Exactly. High activity. But many leaders, many organizations, they're finding, well, zero actual relational impact. And the core idea from the material, it's kind of radical, but also incredibly simple. Influence that sticks, especially now, it grows through proximity, not pixels.
That really lands, doesn't it? Because I think we all feel that disconnect. We're putting more out there, broadcasting constantly, but maybe connecting less
Yeah.
on a deeper level. So for you listening, the goal here in this deep dive is to really grapple with this simple, maybe profound truth.
Yeah.
Trust and presence, they really are the first steps. Non-negotiable. You might be able to tweak a strategy later, but just can't skip the relationship part.
Precisely, yeah. The central argument we kept seeing is that this ability, this skill to actually move someone from just knowing of you, casual familiarity, to genuine solid trust. It's not just a nice-to-have soft skill. The sources frame it as a structural requirement.
Ah, okay. Structural.
Yeah, and skipping that foundational work, that relational groundwork, that's the big warning sign here. It just leads to these shallow connections. And the moment things get tough, the first crisis, you just crumble. Real influence, it seems, doesn't kick off with a viral post. It starts much quieter, with the often costly act of just being truly present.
Okay, before we jump into the practical map of how to do this, let's dig into the why a bit more. It sounds like there's a deep root here. Our sources ground this whole approach in, well, a pretty profound theological framework, specifically the Incarnation. And whether you're coming from a faith perspective or just interested in different leadership models, the method itself seems powerful.
It really is. It's presented as like the ultimate case study in relational influence. The core claim is that transformation, real change, didn't happen through some message just dropped from afar, not a pamphlet from a distance, but because someone came near. So presence isn't just a tactic on a list. It's positioned as the fundamental way change happens.
And there's this concept mentioned, kenosis. It translates roughly as what self-emptying love. If we pull that out of theology and into, say, organizational practice, what does that actually look like for a leader day to day?
Well, practically, it means embracing a certain vulnerability, a willingness to show up without an immediate agenda, without a script demanding something right away. It looks like investing time, where you can't necessarily measure the return instantly. It's about seeing a need and serving it first. And through that, you kind of earn the credibility, earn the right to speak into deeper issues in someone's life or work. It means the leader has to be okay with being inconvenienced sometimes, maybe even humbled, really, for the relationship's sake.
So the practical takeaway is trust absolutely has to come before the content, before the message, the strategy, the ask. We need to lower those defenses first.
Exactly. Yeah, the cognitive stuff, the information, the strategy, it's still necessary, of course. You need the message. But receptivity to that message, that's almost entirely relational. Trust is what lowers the walls, opens ears, maybe opens hearts. If we just reduce everything to information exchange, we get transactions, we don't get transformation, and we often rush to the programs, right? Thinking impact is just about high activity. But we haven't even established basic reliability yet.
Okay, let me push back on this a little, though. Because we live in a world that's frankly obsessed with scale, with efficiency, with speed, doesn't relying on this slow, individual, relationship-heavy presence kind of inherently limit your ability to build something big, something fast-growing, a large-scale movement?
That's a great question. And the sources would say it limits fast growth, potentially, but it actually enables lasting, durable growth. That's the critical distinction. The challenge is really telling the difference between just showing up, being physically there, and actual presence.
Okay.
Showing up can be passive. Presence is intentional. It's an investment. And that kind of intentionality in our hyper-connected, often transactional world, it's becoming really rare. And because it's rare, it's actually becoming more valuable than ever. The leaders who can intentionally slow down, invest in relationships, navigate different contexts with empathy, they're the ones building structures that last, structures that survive even when the initial charismatic leader isn't there anymore.
Right, that makes a lot of sense. Durability over speed. Okay, so we've got the why, this sort of theological imperative, turned into a leadership approach. But how do we actually do it? You mentioned a map. The sources apparently lay out a clear 4-stage practical map for building this relational influence. And importantly, skipping steps is risky.
Yes, this map is basically the blueprint. It shows the path from someone being, just a face in the crowd, a stranger in your orbit, all the way to becoming a trusted partner, someone invested in a shared mission. And it's all structured around the key relational question that needs answering at each stage.
Okay, let's walk through it. Stage 1 seems pretty basic, just proximity.
Stage 1, familiar. Proximity. Exactly. The goal here is super simple. Observation and contact. That's it. The core question being answered, maybe subconsciously, is, who are you? And you achieve this just through consistent appearance, showing up in the same places, the local market, the coffee shop, the industry conference, listening more than talking, just sharing space. The big risk if you stay here, well, relationships remain purely transactional. People know your face, maybe your name, but they're not going to trust you with anything important. They won't follow you anywhere meaningful.
And that jump to stage 2 feels critical. It's where the potential for real trust starts to build.
Right. Absolutely crucial. Stage 2, attender, reliability. The goal shifts entirely here. It's all about credibility. The question now becomes, can I count on you?
Yeah.
And reliability is the engine. It's built through seemingly small things. Keeping tiny commitments, responding quickly when small things go wrong for someone, meticulous follow-through on every promise, no matter how minor.
So why is skipping this stage so dangerous if someone's trying to lead change?
Because proximity without reliability, it doesn't build trust, it actually breeds suspicion. Or, at best, a really superficial kind of loyalty. Think about maybe an overly charismatic manager. They're always there, always visible in the office, stage 1, right? Familiar face. But they constantly promise things and don't deliver. I'll get you that feedback by Friday. Friday comes, nothing. Let's grab coffee next week. Never happens.
Right, I know the type.
Yeah. They look familiar, but they operate like a flake. That failure to keep the small promises, it just fundamentally undermines everything else. You can't build anything real on that.
Okay. So once that reliability, that consistency is proven, then you've sort of earned the right to move into deeper territory. Stage 3, vulnerability.
Yes, exactly. That's the permission slip. Stage 3, friend, vulnerability and shared life. The goal now becomes genuine mutuality, real intimacy, in a professional or community context. And the question being answered is the deepest yet. Will you share life with me? This stage requires more risk from the leader. Things like appropriate self-disclosure, sharing struggles, not just successes, lamenting together, acknowledging pain and disappointment, not just celebrating wins, and maybe engaging in shared practices, whether that's explicitly spiritual for some or maybe shared ethical commitments or routines in a workplace.
What happens if a leader gets stuck here? They're reliable, people count on them, stage 2, but they never really open up or share the hard stuff. What does that stall?
Well, the relationship stays somewhat formal, maybe. The conversations remain academic. It lacks that deeper connection. The huge risk of skipping stage 3 or not fully engaging in it is that any truly transformative dialogue, whether it's discipleship, deep mentorship, real-life coaching, it just stays theoretical. People might trust you to meet a deadline because you're reliable, but they won't trust you with their real struggles, their doubts, their internal chaos. Why? Because they haven't seen you be vulnerable. So they won't risk it themselves. The walls are still up, just maybe a bit further back.
Got it. And then finally, stage 4. This is where all that investment starts to multiply.
Precisely. Stage 4, trust, shared mission, and multiplication. This is the culmination. The goal is reproduction, commitment, shared ownership. The question becomes the ultimate one. Can I stake my future on you in this mission? And this stage demands the highest level of mutual commitment. It looks like real apprenticeship, meaningful delegation, not just tasks, but authority, and empowering others to truly contextualize the mission, to make it their own in their setting.
And the risk, if a leader achieves friendship, maybe deep bonds, but never quite gets to this stage of empowering and sending others.
Then the movement, the organization, it just stalls. It often becomes centered entirely around that initial leader's personality and presence. It's dependent. So when those core leaders inevitably step back, retire, move on, or even fail, the whole thing can collapse. Why? Because the currency of trust needed to truly empower and release others, that currency was never fully exchanged or invested outwards. Trust, deep trust, is the only thing that allows for multiplication beyond the founder's shadow.
Okay, this framework is incredibly insightful, but let's get super practical. How do we actually operationalize this? Turn the theory into, like, weekly habits. The source material mentions a minimal but powerful set of practices. What are they?
Yeah, it really focuses on building what they call a reliable showing up culture, systematically. First, leaders need to schedule fixed presence blocks. Seriously, put it in the calendar, like 3, 4 hours, maybe twice a week. And critically, this is in a non-program setting. A neutral space could be a local coffee shop, maybe hanging out at a community center, even a specific park bench. The key is consistency and predictability. People need to know where you'll be.
So this isn't about organizing an event or having meetings. It's literally just being there,
Yes.
available, listening.
That's pretty much it. It's deliberate stage one investment, just showing up, observing, being available for conversations that might happen. No agenda. Second, they suggest implementing a regular hospitality evening. Or maybe lunch, doesn't have to be evening. But the focus has to be entirely on food and deep listening. No hidden agenda, no presentation. And importantly, rotate the guests. Intentionally invite people who might not normally connect with each other or with you. This space becomes a transition zone, moving from reliability towards that shared life of stage 3.
Okay, and then connecting back to stage 2, the linchpin of reliability microcommitments.
Yes, this is absolutely critical for activating stage 2. The advice is stark. Stop making high-risk, big asks up front, like come join our organization, or commit to this huge project.
Okay.
Instead, replace those with low-risk, very specific invitations. Things like, hey, let's grab coffee next Tuesday, 8:30 a.m. I'd love to hear about that project you mentioned. Or can I call you Thursday afternoon for 15 minutes about X? And reliability here is so paramount. The sources actually suggest organizations implement a reliability ledger.
Reliability ledger. Wow, okay. That sounds like taking reliability from just being a nice personality trait to like a core organizational metric. Tell me more.
It basically formalizes stage 2 accountability. Think about it. If a leader or anyone on the team only keeps, say, 50% of their small, low-stakes promises, returning a call, sending that promised email link, showing up on time for that coffee, they are actively undermining their ability to ever reach stage 3 or 4, no matter how nice or charismatic they seem. The ledger simply tracks these small commitments made versus kept. The goal, aim for like a 90% keep rate. It forces everyone to confront the gap between good intentions and actual measurable faithfulness. It stops us from confusing busyness with reliability.
That's fantastic. Really practical. Okay, so we're showing up consistently. We're being reliable with small things. What about the conversations themselves? What tools can we use once we're in those moments to gently encourage that stage 3 vulnerability?
Right. The suggestion is to use what they call the curiosity script. It's not really a script, more of an approach. It involves using simple, open-ended questions designed to draw out someone's story, their narrative, and invite vulnerability not to jump straight into advice or persuasion. Questions like, who has been a significant influence or mentor in your professional life? Or maybe, what's the hardest challenge you're facing right now, personally or at work? And the key instruction is simple. Listen 80%, talk 20%. Your primary role isn't to fix or preach or sell, it's just to hear, understand, and affirm their experience.
This whole approach, it feels like a pretty radical redirection of time and energy.
Yeah.
And I can practically hear the objections rising from, conventional leaders everywhere. We don't have the time for all this relational stuff. And
Hey.
how on earth do we measure something fuzzy like trust?
Yeah.
Sources must address these common roadblocks, right?
They absolutely do. These are the main obstacles cited. Regarding the no time issue, the correction offered is direct. Reframe presence. It's not an add-on. It's not an extra task for when you have downtime. It has to be seen as a core investment, a fundamental part of the work, and we have to internalize that short, regular, predictable presence. Those small blocks are far more effective than occasional big, splashy marathon events. Presence needs to be built into the job description, into the weekly schedule, not tacked on.
Okay, reframing it as investment, not expense. And what about the measurement problem? If we're really going to fund this long term, how do we show it's working if the big KPIs aren't moving immediately?
Yeah, the metrics question is key. The answer is you have to measure proximate indicators, not just the ultimate, maybe far off outcomes. So instead of only tracking, say, quarterly sales or attendance numbers, you track the activities that signal growing trust and relational depth. Things like how many hospitality meals were hosted, how many relationships demonstrably moved from stage 1 familiar to stage 2 attender this quarter, how many people are now in genuine stage 3 friend relationships, how many are entering stage 4 apprenticeship trust. The sources are clear. Organizations have to commit to fund long timelines. We're talking maybe 2-3 years to see the real fruit of this relational investment. And critically, you have to reward the right things. Reward multiplication, stage 4 activity, not just big visible attendance numbers. Reward the patient, local work of formation. That requires a structural shift in how we measure success.
Wow. This has been, well, a really deep dive. It feels like it exposes how often we chase things, metrics maybe,
Mm.
that don't actually build the kind of influence that lasts. The core message that I'm taking away is this. Presence, real presence, it's costly. It takes time, emotional energy, vulnerability. It's not easy. But the payoff is durable influence, the kind that can actually weather storms, shifts in the market, organizational changes.
Exactly. And the argument woven through the material is that if we genuinely want movements or organizations that can reproduce themselves, that can last beyond the initial founders, we have to take on the weight, the gravity of showing up, not just as a tactic, but as a fundamental theological posture, as they put it, mirroring that deep model of relational transformation. And those four stages, familiar, attender, friend, trust, they give us a practical ladder, a framework you can actually use to assess your own relationships in leadership context, to intentionally move people from that distance of us and them towards the shared reality of we.
So if the Incarnation model teaches that God's own method is proximity, coming near, then the final thought, the challenge for you listening today, is maybe intensely practical. Think about one relationship in your own life, professional, personal, community, that feels kind of stuck. Maybe at that familiar stage, or maybe you're reliable, but it hasn't deepened into friend. What's one specific small micro commitment you could make this week? Maybe it's just sending that text promising a follow-up call. Maybe it's scheduling that 15-minute coffee. What small promise will you make and then meticulously keep to start building your own reliability ledger? That seems to be where it all begins. One small, kept promise at a time.